Good evening. Welcome to Moments with Lady K and Mistah T Show, where they converse on motivational living, clearing negativity from your life, local events, and more. Here are your hosts, Kimberly McLemore and Teryck Coles.
All right. Hello and welcome to Moments with Lady K and Mistah T. We are your host, Kimberly McLemore, and I have with me... Hello. Who are you?
Mr. T.
Mr. T. Teryck Coles is Mr. T. So yes, we are here. We're excited. We have something kind of unique and special for everyone tonight. But before we dive into all the goodies that we're going to be talking about tonight, Mr. T, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit more about who you are?
Well, thank you, Lady K. I appreciate that. About me, other than being Mr. T, I am also affectionately known as T by many of my students and by a few people out there, Mr. Move with T, the owner and operator of Move with T LLC in Northern Virginia. And I am a very happy and proud doggy daddy of a Shih Tzu. So one half of a doggy parental unit. For all the doggy parents out there, you know who you are. Mad respect. And for the parents out there, y'all get even more respect because at least y'all's kids grow up and learn how to talk. And Pepper will not be making a showcase tonight or today, rather, whenever you're listening to this podcast, because he is in the other room, so he cannot bother me and jingle jangle in my feet. So, yeah. So there's that. And other than that, I'm slightly stressed out. Black person in America, and I know we'll get to that later, and a stressed out employee for various reasons that I will not share either right now. But other than that, like I said, I'm the owner operator of Move with T, also a contributor to the Z Beat, and we're looking to go back into doing our work very soon, where I offer up motivational information, a monthly motivational offering to the readers to kind of keep people uplifted. And I'm one half of this magnificent podcast of Moments of Lady K with Mr. T. And I'm a Taurus. But I'm not single, so your mind's out of the gutter, y'all.
Oh my goodness. Well, on that note, just a little bit about myself. As I introduced earlier, my name is Kimberly McLemore. A lot of people also call me author Kimberly McLemore. And because I am, yes, an award-winning author, and as well as I am the founder of Author Kimberly and McLemore LLC. I'm also the CEO and founder of Women's Small Business Initiative LLC. And that's what I do on, besides 3 other podcasts. And then, of course, I'm a project manager during the day as well. So I have my hands in the pots a little bit of everything. But, personally, I'm obviously not married. I probably told y'all that about 10 times ago. That was the case. But I definitely have an amazing son, grown man and, is taking care of his business. But, I guess this conversation tonight is really, it's a lot about us, but it's a lot about our experiences. And we're excited because we're not doing what we would consider our normal show. With what's going on in our world today, in our country, and what we see in front of our own eyes, we just needed to have this conversation. We needed for people to understand who we are and what it means and why we go through the things we go through as being Black in America. And we're going to be talking tonight about our own personal experiences. And I want to stress that because I don't want people coming back to us saying, oh, you said this and you did that and blah, blah, blah. And even if you did, I'm going to tell you, I really don't care at this point. But at the end of the day, we have our experiences that we need to share so people understand why we feel the way we feel, and what our lives, our daily lives are like just being Black in America. And at this point, it's not even about whether you're a woman or whether you're a man. It is truly our personal experiences that we deal with every day just because of the way we look. So we're really excited about this conversation tonight. And, T, you want to go first. You want to bring up a couple things. Let's just chime in and dive in on this off the cuff conversation for the night. Let's get it rocking.
All right. There we go. I'm almost not used to us doing this because we have some other stuff that we kind of cover first and then we get to this place.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, well, shout out to all the people of color, all the Black listeners out there listening right now. First and foremost, I know we all have felt the heaviness of our experiences, and those are the experiences who existed before us and before them. And I'm 43. And I normally say I'm a something year old, but
right.
I'm 43. And
yeah, you usually leave that part out, right?
I do, or I gloss over it. I actually had a very real conversation last week that had nothing to do with my Blackness, as much as just having a very real conversation. And I'm not going to dive into that because it's not related specifically to this topic. It's not directly. But I had to share my age and say, I'm 43 years old, and I've been working since I was 15 years old. So I'm going to talk to you like a man, because I'm a man. And these are some of my experiences. I'm not perfect, but I went into this conversation with this person, and that conversation was something else, but with being Black and leading to that, I share that because I was reflecting on how we all have that moment. Like if you're fortunate enough to have a dad in your household, your dad will sometimes sit you down and have that conversation with you. If he's a real dude, and he's like, look, let me talk to you. And your moms will too. So that's not to say anything against moms. Or we all have that cool uncle or that cool older cousin. They would say, look, youngin, let me let you know what's going on so you can get yourself in line. And so I don't know if people outside of my Blackness have those kinds of conversations. I've heard some of them many times, them being our Caucasian counterparts, have conversations with their siblings, their parents, even, and employers, and they assert themselves in a way in the conversation that exemplifies the privilege that they have been afforded. And I've had times when I was like, I would never in my life speak to my mother that way. And that alone is eye-opening. And imagining, in my 40s, that, the way that someone else who might be my peer would speak to their parent or loved one in such a way that is very matter of fact. And there's nothing wrong with the way that was being spoken. It was a tone that was different.
Right.
And in our experience of being Black, and I guess this is where I'm going, we understand tone and verbiage and all of its subtleties and complexities that other people don't necessarily understand. And we pick up on all those nuances that are unique, that let you know if you're about to get your butt whipped.
Right.
Or if you're like, this is just a stern talking to, but don't let it happen again. And it starts, I think, with our experience. Some of it with that. And some of it, I think, is intrinsic within our DNA, because culturally, there are certain things that just get passed down to us. But then, literally, who we are as people, and being able to tolerate certain experiences, and so it's almost intrinsic in who we are as a people. And then when you're fortunate enough to have people who surround you to help you grow within those experiences and help steer you in the right direction. It's like that's part of my personal experience, and that's part of the Black experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that everyone in America gets, and I don't think that's something that everyone understands. Which is why I think with where our country is as a nation, it took the obvious death of a man on camera being shot for people to kind of even comprehend a minute view into what it is to be not only a person of color,
right,
but a Black person in America.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I mean,
and I know I'm not speaking. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. No, go ahead and finish what you're going to say.
Well, I was just going to say that I know I'm not in speaking those words, and I'm not speaking specific to my personal experience, which
Mm-hmm.
I will share a very specific story.
Mm-hmm.
Because of my first name. It's quite unique. And I'll share that later
Mm-hmm.
as we move along. But I think that we as Black people understand everything that I just said
Mm-hmm.
in a way that other people, not just non-Black, I would say just non-Black people in general, don't comprehend.
Right.
Because unfortunately, even though like Latino people and specifically, I'll say African people who are from the continent of Africa, people
Mm-hmm.
from other countries, they may have faced their own, I want to say, versions of oppression in their own respective countries, and I'm not dismissing that.
Right.
But the specific story and experience of slavery, as it has been ingrained into American culture, is a very specific and unique phenomena that, well, it's just unique to itself.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I agree. That's because it was specifically made for us. And that's the sad part about it. When you were talking briefly about the fact that, we understand certain things, like you said, it's just something as simple as a certain tone, a certain look, a certain feel. Even, just as something as simple as walking in the room, we understand what that means for us, and nobody who is not a person of color, or specifically a Black person, would not have a clue what we're talking about. And being that I'm 54 years old and I was born into this in the 60s, in the late 60s, and being brought up through all this turmoil, then it's the same. A lot of it is the same turmoil from then all the way up till now. And it's almost ridiculous to think that in 54 years of my living that things have changed, but a lot of things really haven't changed. Systemic racism is so blatant, but when you have you've blinded yourself and your hands over your eyes, and you don't want to see that. And like you said, it takes a human being physically on national TV. We're seeing with our own eyes being killed right in front of us. It takes that for people to realize what's really wrong with this country, or why these experiences are happening to Black men, and not just Black men, to just as many Black women that we don't hear about on a day-to-day basis. And I sit back and I think about it, and I'm just like, wow, what has really changed? Why do I have to keep having to wake up with the same feelings? Why do I have to keep having the same conversation with my son when he walks out the door, and he is a grown man at 32? Why do I have to feel like when I'm on my job, if I'm not being above and beyond everybody else, that I may not have a job? Why do I have to feel like when I'm walking in the store that just because of the color of my skin, you're worried about if I'm going to actually pay for something, or if, you know, you're going to really, or you're going to just have cash, or, I mean, the things that people say and think, I always say, I think, are you really listening to yourself? Are you really understanding how it really sounds when you look at a person just because of the way that they look, that you have those specific feelings about that individual that you don't even know? And those experiences that I have to deal with every day of my life, nobody has ever really heard me talk about it unless they're within my circle or within my family. And I love the fact that, we're having these conversations today. And I absolutely like the progress that's being made. We're getting, each day is getting better as far as the communication and how people are feeling and what we're seeing. And all people are getting involved that had not normally would get involved, in the past, just within the past 4 or 5 years, we'd have all these killings, but then, everybody get the rise up on it, and then it just fades away. And they're so different about what's going on today that I, in my lifetime, didn't think I would ever see. Hoping and praying that in my son's lifetime and for his children that those things might come to change. But obviously, this has affected people in a way that we didn't think it has, and we're seeing some change and things happen that we would have never seen, all because of what we physically seen on TV, which is the most saddest thing in the world to think about it. And at the same time, this man has become a hero for everybody because he lost his life so people could communicate. Now think about how that sounds. Another individual has to lose their life just so people can communicate about what's right and about what's wrong. And so when I see or think about those things, it does make me upset. And somebody asked me a couple weeks ago, some friends of mine and people who actually used to work for me, but we all very close friends. And for the first time, somebody actually asked me, how are you feeling? And I was like, well, what do you mean? I'm perfectly fine. He's like, no, I know what you do. I just need to know, how are you really feeling? Tell me what you're experiencing. I'm trying to understand this. And I'm just like, oh, you really want to know? So, we get on this 2-hour conversation, and the beauty about the conversation was that he wanted to just listen and learn and understand that it's one thing to get up every day and have the privileges that he has as a white man, but he never in his longest mind realized what it really feels like to be in our shoes. And then to have to share that experience and talk about it, because he's also an ex-cop. That was the other great, amazing part about our conversation, is that his thought process was not the same as what we're seeing. And obviously not every cop is going to think the same, and we don't want to put that blame out there, because we absolutely need our protection. And we need for people to protect and serve as that's what they're there to do. But when you start to hear it from another person's perspective of how they see and what they feel, and not understanding why people do what they do, and having to learn that in a 2-hour conversation, it was a pretty overwhelming conversation to have. And I just think that us having the opportunity to have this platform gives us an opportunity to give people an understanding that it's not about us whining. It's not about me expecting you to know everything about why we feel the way we feel. What I want people to understand is that I don't think you're never going to understand what we deal with. But if you just have enough common sense just to ask the question, you're going to learn everything you need to know within that conversation. It's not about the fear. Don't be scared. I'm not scared when I'm around you to conversate. Why do you need to be scared to be around me to ask me a question? But don't assume that everything's okay. Just ask, talk, communicate. That's what we do in this world. We have that right to communicate with each other. Because, I guess, me being raised, I've never been raised to hate somebody just because of how they look or what they feel or like or dislike. That's your business if that's who you are. But at the same token, why do you want to mistreat somebody just because of the way that they look? You know, so there's so many different things that, you know, this conversation can go left, right, middle. You know, all of our experiences can be talked about for hours. And you being a black man and me being a black woman, you know, we all have these experiences that are very similar and different in our own way, because as for men, it affects you differently than it does for me as a woman. But I just like the fact that we have an opportunity to share that. So I don't, you know, I know you're quiet and I don't know what you're thinking back there. I know your mind is rolling. It's rolling. I know it's rolling back there. So, you know, I don't know. It's just the world we live in is been the same in my eyesight in a lot of ways. Yes, it's changed in other ways, but I'm hopeful that things will be better for my son's future, and his kids down the road when he ever decides to have a family. And I think that's the most important thing that, you know, I'm seeing. And I think everybody, well, I can't speak for everybody, but I think a lot of people have some of the similar feelings that today things are just different than what it would have been just not even 6 months ago, you know, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What you thinking? You too quiet for me back
what
there.
am I
too
thinking?
Quiet.
One of the things that I've thought about throughout all of this, and you actually hit on it perfectly just a moment ago, when you noted that just 6 months ago, our lives were different, because we're now in July.
Mm-hmm. Well, soon to be. Yeah. July. Well, yeah, we are.
Yeah.
July. I'm already crazy. Yeah, you're right. These months are going by way too fast, okay?
Yeah. I think for our listeners out there, we do record it slightly ahead of schedule because we're both busy. So, but the messages are still pertinent to what we're here for. But literally 6 months ago, even I'll say 6 to 8 months ago, we were in 2019, early 2020, and I'm not even going to address. I'm not even going to address Corona and COVID,
right?
Because
I don't want to talk about any of that.
I don't want to know her, and she has caused enough problems as it is.
Exactly.
However, she's actually, I personify her as female. I don't know why it's a thing. But
she's mad.
You know, I just think
she's mad. That's for sure.
She ain't just mad. She is pissed. Excuse my language. The fuck off.
Exactly.
And I don't cuss a lot. So for those of you that are hearing me curse, you're like, "What is he doing?" And I said cuss, and I said curse. Curse is the correct word. Cuss is what we say when we black.
Exactly. But, they tell you there's something going on. People better pay attention. All right. They better pay attention.
But if it wasn't for, and I'm going to be honest,
mm-hmm.
people being stuck at home in the middle of a pandemic, not an epidemic,
a pandemic. Mm-hmm.
And the world literally stopped. And shout out to Beyonce. And I'm not trying to make light of a situation, but I remember her a few records ago. She said, "I can stop the world. World stop." And the song literally stops.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're listening to it, you're like, "Is she coming back on?" And then she comes back in. Right. And I'm not saying Beyonce has anything to do with the pandemic, because I love Beyonce.
Right.
And I've gone on record, if you listen to any of our shows previously, you know. But
yeah, this man is in love with Beyonce. So Beyonce, if you're listening, girl, we just want you to know.
I was talking to her today, but I'm gonna stay on topic. You know, if it really wasn't for the world kind of being stuck at home literally at the same time, which is, as we've learned through, well, until this point in our lives, we didn't think that was possible.
Right.
I remember being in London, and my niece was celebrating her 10th birthday, and calling her and saying, "Hey, happy birthday!" And it was the day before her birthday for her, but it was her birthday for me. And I joked, I'm calling from the future, because literally I'm in another part of the world and I'm in her actual birthday, but it's not her birthday yet.
Right.
And we had a little joke about that because she was younger. But we think of the world in a way that it's constantly moving, and there's some parts of the world that are already in tomorrow, and there are some parts of the world that it might still be kind of stuck in yesterday. I don't know how that works, but I'm sure somebody out there would be like, "But it's not really like that," but something like that. But within 24 hours, it's conceivable that, based on where you are in the world, somebody's in tomorrow and somebody's in yesterday, but you are in today. And so I say all that to say that we never thought of the world as a place that we could all just stop, because we all learned, if you learn anything about geography and the world, that if the world stops moving, life stops. So,
right.
And death is when your cellular functions stop processing. So we all watched this person, this human being, die, and saw death happening. And I think what's enraged people, for many people, is not so much that he was black, but that he's a person, that he's human.
Exactly.
They just miss things. They just miss things when they see it, and because I do it too. When you're watching TV and they talk about the animals, or the whales, or the polar bears, we all see those infomercials, and we know that's important, but we're like, ah. But when everyone watches a human have their life squeezed out of them, it causes everybody to stop and take note. And for those people who are not black and care, who want to understand more about, well, what is systemic racism? Why are black people being treated this way? Why is it the same day that this man died, another man was having the police called on him for bird watching, when he asked the person who called the police on him
to
just obey
Karen.
the law? Yeah. I don't like to call out Karens, because I know a couple Karens. And
I know a bunch of them too, but you know what? It just, whoever came up with it, it is what it is, you know.
Yeah. Look, so luckily I know a Karen. Her name is pronounced Karen, but it's not spelled Karen. So if she's listening, I'm like, boo-boo, this ain't for you, because I know you pay attention and you know what's going on. But some of the other ones that I know, I'm like, well, girl, if the shoe fits.
Right, exactly. You know, so yeah, I mean, it's like, don't take it personal. It is, you know, whoever came up with that name, they came up with it for a reason. But as you were trying to say, you know, I'll let you go ahead and finish what you're trying to say on that piece.
Yeah, well, just to take everything back to really what my ultimate point was, and I know I kind of moved around a little bit there, which I tend to do, but one of the things you talked about was the 6 month thing, which is what we were initially talking about. 6 months ago, we were living a different life.
Yes.
And I talked about my family, and like my mother was approximately 10 years old when the Voting Rights Act was passed that allowed black people to be able to vote. When you think about it, when you think about it in perspective, her parents, my grandparents, who are still alive, I just talked to my grandmother a couple of days ago. Well, I would say my grandparents, not just my grandmother. My grandfather chimes in for a couple of minutes, and he's got to go because he don't like to talk on the phone.
Right.
But they were just celebrating their 66th wedding anniversary. And they were in their full-grown adult lives.
Mm-hmm.
When this act was passed, it said you can legally go and vote now. The federal government says it's okay. So literally in 2 generations of my family, and I'm sure other people can share the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
that literally within their lifetimes, because the Voting Rights Act was passed in the Civil Rights Act came in the 60s, and
Yep.
all of these things happened in the 60s.
Yep.
We're only in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in 77, so I just missed it by 10 years. It was like some of these things were only in effect for 10, 15 years, depending on where things fall in. Essentially, when I was old enough to even know what a president was or be able to recognize the president's face on the news, on TV. So it's just amazing to think about, where we as a people have come from, what we go through every day,
Mm-hmm.
and where we're going. And I'm not trying to wrap this up right now because I know we can talk a little bit longer. But like, what's her name? I think her name. I think her name is Kimberly Jones, not Lil Kim, but a different Kimberly Jones. I think that's her name. When she said, I don't know if you know this reference to my other Kimberly, Lady K. I don't know if you know this reference, but it was they're lucky that all that black people are looking for is equality and not revenge.
Amen
And that
to
was
that
a
one.
very, very bold statement, and it was very powerful, and it resonated with me in my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think truly that non-black people, specifically white people, but there's some others that can be thrown in that group too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that ultimately that's what they're afraid of, is that people of color in general, specifically black people, but people of color in general, are going to surge and say no more. In Espanol, no más. I don't know any other languages. But really come and say, And I remember just in her impassioned speech, and for those that haven't seen it, when she was interviewed on the news or whatever outlet she was found on, you can find her on YouTube, her just saying, I don't care if they burn this to the ground. Because we've trusted these people to take care of us and entrusted our lives to them, and all the time, basically, they crap on us.
Mm-hmm.
And black people as a people, going back to the personal experience in being black in America, we as a people are just at a point where we're done and we're tired and we're fed up. And if something doesn't change systemically, things are going to change in another way. I just personally feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that other way looks like, what it's shaped like, because it's unknown to me. But I think that things will change in a way that's going to be very recognizable. So,
Yeah.
So shout out to COVID for doing what she did.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and really it's not even about how people today who are speaking up, it's not about being brave and speaking up. It's just, like you said, we're just tired. You just get tired of feeling like you have to walk around eggshells. You can't even get in your car, and you're going to wonder if you're going to make it home tonight if you get pulled over something stupid or don't even know why. It's just all these little things that, like I said, that, people will take for granted, but we don't take for granted every day. We have to think every little thing that we do, which is unfortunate. You try to live a normal life per se, but within that normalcy, it's all these other things, these little dangling carrots that are there in front of you, just because of people's thought process and their mindset and their ignorance of not understanding that and looking at us as just being human beings. And then that's the part that always has bothered me, is that when you see me, can't you just see me as a woman first? You already know what I look like. You don't have to describe what I look like. I'm still a woman, and it's that same formality with everybody. Everybody's labeled, you've been trained in your mind that, anybody who looks darker than you is worse than you. Anybody who looks lighter than you is better than you. It's like, who comes up with these concepts and an understanding of such ignorance that this is where we're at in our world. This is why things are being done the way they're being done. And to think that it's okay that, one person can, kill another person. If you're white, you can walk away. If you're black, you can't. I don't understand that concept and that ignorance, but that's what the world has been taught over and over and over, that these things are okay. And like you were saying, and we were talking about the change between 6 months ago and where we are today, just to see people, police officers or just people in general, white people getting indicted for something they've done wrong. I'm just sitting over with my mouth wide open like, wow, somebody's actually going to do something about it. Because every time we hear that they're going to do something, nothing ever happens. And people are literally walking away and can continue to go back out and do the same thing over and over. It starts with the mindset, but it also starts from within those organizations, within these people, to say, you know what, right is right and wrong is wrong. This is not what we were taught. This is not how you handle a circumstance when you know that it's wrong. There's other ways to handle everything. And unfortunately, we're still seeing, even after all of this, you're still seeing almost week after week, somebody else is being arrested, somebody else is being killed. Why? Is nobody not paying attention? Are you not learning and understanding that this is not an appropriate way to handle anything? Communication is the key to everything that we do, and that understanding that, like I said, the simple things of right is right and wrong is wrong, there really is no in between in that. There just really isn't. So I don't know. It's just it just seems that, like I said, steps are being taken. Things are starting to change, little baby steps. Even paying more attention to how people are even noticing just the statues. Statues that we've seen in this country for years, and nobody's ever said anything. Nobody ever cared. And now people are really paying attention to that. And it's just like, wow, are people really waking up and understanding that how significant even something as simple as a statue makes a difference? Because that statue resembles something of ignorance and cruelty and harm and depression and oppression. It's amazing that people are just now taking that and understanding that that should not be a symbol of greatness. So, I don't know. We could have this conversation for hours and hours, because it's just so ingrained and it's so in depth within us. And that it just makes it hard not to want to conversate about it. It makes it hard to want to stop conversating about it. But at the same time, like I said, I'm not here to point fingers and blame, and call you out on your name and all that nonsense. That's not really what this is about. It's just, we wanted to just share, just talk a little bit about, what we see, what we feel, how we've been raised and how it's affected us, and the little bit of changes that we see going on within our, and right in front of our eyes, that like we probably wouldn't have seen just like less than 6 months ago. So I agree with you when you say and talk about how this pandemic had brought us to our knees, literally. And then all of a sudden, out of that portion of negativity has come some positivity. There's come that awakening. And it's like, for me, within my spirit and the things that I see and feel, it's like, wow, if you're not listening to the signs and seeing the signs, I don't know what to tell you, people. I don't know what to tell you. But somebody, and I don't know what people's religion is. I'm not here to preach to you, but I'm going to say, for me, that if you ain't listening to God and ain't seeing his message, then you need to wake up. Period. You just need to wake up. Mm-hmm. You've been sleeping too long. It's time for you to open your eyes. It's time.
I like something, one of my faves, and some people will know this name and some people won't. Mm-hmm. But Amanda Seales, for those who don't know her, she was a recent co-host on The View, but I knew her. I don't know her personally, but I knew of her and followed her work way back when she was Amanda Diva on MTV. So that's long time ago.
Long time
yeah,
ago.
Long time ago. That was like 20 years right there. She was in the game for a minute though.
I was looking like MTV. You really brought it back, okay?
Yeah, back when they had the VJs. Like,
Right.
oh yeah. She was Amanda Diva, and she is
Exactly.
amazing, and she's one of my faves. Her and Angela Rye are two people who I follow on a regular basis, and I
Mm-hmm.
love the brilliancy of their minds and how articulate they are, and their verbiage.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love words. Words just make me feel good. But one of the things she said, and I mentioned her name in regard to your last point. Um, she mentioned in an interview with Angela Rye, ironically, both of them together,
Mm-hmm.
on Angela's show. Now, I'm not trying to give them free publicity, but hey, there it is. Shout out.
Too late.
um,
Too
right, shout
late.
out to y'all. But she mentioned how our nation, and this is like a couple weeks ago actually, but how our nation is experiencing an eruption of consciousness, like a
Mm.
collective eruption of just awareness, where it's just like it doesn't matter what color you are, what your
Mm-hmm.
gender, what your sexuality, in most cases, what your age is, what
Mm-hmm.
state you live in. With the death of George Floyd, and I do want to say before we end this podcast, may he rest in peace.
Right.
Um, it's like everyone is just, if you thought you were woke, you sat upright in bed in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
If you were asleep, you definitely started hitting the alarm clock and was like, what's going on? And I think that's just where we are as a country, where we as a country are having to acknowledge this now and
Right.
figure out actively how to push past it. And technically, we're in foreign territory because for 400 years, as long as this country has existed, um,
401 to be exact.
yes, to be
Mm-hmm.
exact, it's existed in a way that it was set up for the people who are now saying, "Look at me, recognize me," and we've been saying this for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and people have thought that we were just, whining.
Right.
Um,
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we didn't do this to
but
you, so what's the problem? Yeah. I'm
exactly, and so
so sick of hearing that one.
yeah, so here we are in this space now where it's like, oh well, you cannot look away from this. You
Exactly.
you cannot you can't not acknowledge this because this happened on the same day that this other thing happened. And the week before, this thing happened. And the week
Mm-hmm.
after, this thing happened. And this other thing has happened as well. And so all of these things are connected.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a
Yep.
reason why these things are connected. And we have to figure out as a country, white and black people the same. Although we as black people, we do say we can only do so much. And we need our non-black allies, our brethren and sistren, to get together and say, yes, we acknowledge you. We see what's going on. We want to help you, and we will. And this is how we're going to do it. And unfortunately, it's not going to be perfect because the system was set up for people like you and I, Lady K, to not be
Successful.
invited to those places, to be
Invited. That's
successful,
right.
to be invited
Mm-hmm.
to those places. So
Mm-hmm.
all of those all of those constructs will have to be dismantled,
Yep.
and
That's
that's going to
right.
take a lot of time. I mean,
You're
we've got
right.
baby steps, and my biggest sadness, and I don't want to get off topic, is wondering what's going to happen next year in 2021 when we're in this
Mm-hmm.
place and we hope to have a vaccine for COVID-19 and life has presumably returned to some semblance of normalcy.
Right.
Do Are we going to forget about this and move on, or will we still be actively working toward righting the rights and correcting the wrongs? Or no, I'm going to say righting the rights, but keeping the rights right
Right.
and correcting the wrongs, and for all the things that are gray, figuring them out so they're no longer gray and they seriously have an impact. and makes, and there's no gray area to say, oh, well, because in the 60s, there was an upsurgence that caused what we now know as the Equal Rights Act.
Right.
The Civil Rights Act. And 60 years from now, we should not be in the same place that we were 60 years ago, if that makes any sense.
And you're right. And the key...
I didn't do the math. I don't know if I did the math right, but yeah.
Well, but the bottom line is...
I don't have my calculator.
It's okay, but you know what? I'm hoping it doesn't take 60 years, okay, for those types of changes to have to come to place and to come to the forefront. You know, we've been beaten over the head enough that it's time. We should not have to keep having these conversations every day, or every time somebody is killed. We should not have to constantly have these reminders that this is not right, period. And it doesn't take 60 years. It literally, we shouldn't even have to have damn laws, to be honest. I mean, it's ridiculous in my eyesight to think that you got to have laws for everything just to treat people like human beings. I mean, come on, people. And it starts from within. It starts from you. It's not about just the people who can change the laws, sitting up there in Congress and Senate and all that. It's not just about them. It's about you as an individual. Look within yourself. You've had more than enough time. We've had so much time with all of this pandemic, going on, that we have had enough time to relook into ourselves and know what we are about and who we are and who we hurt and what we've done with our lives. Are we accomplishing the things we want to do? Are we doing the right thing? We've had enough time to seek inside of us to know, is that really you? Are you really being the person that you are? And if you can stand up there and own and say to yourself that I'm a good person and I don't do this and I don't do that and I'm not then fine. But help somebody else get through that if that's what they need. Help them clear their negativity within their life so that they can quit harming other people, because we shouldn't have to go through all of this in order to get people to recognize what is right and what is wrong. And that's the sad part about all of this conversation, that it's taken, 401 years of the slavery mentality and the ignorance and the arrogance that we have going on. And nobody seems to learn from anything until we literally have to sit there on national TV and watch another human being's life being taken away. 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Remember that time as long as you live. And if you've ever stood still for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, you will know that that is the longest you will ever stand in your life. By yourself. Empty. Feeling everything go away from you because you can't do anything for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That's a long time. So if the world can change that quickly in the things that we're seeing after something like that, then you can't sit here and tell me that we have to wait another 60 years, because Lord knows, hey, if I'm still here another 60 years from now, that okay. But I don't want to have to feel like my life has to be put on hold because I can't be treated like a human being until 60 years from now. It's ridiculous that we all can't just be who we want to be with, enjoy life, do what we want to do, and just treat people like human. You ain't got to like me. You don't have to ever be around me. But if you see me, treat me like a human being. It's just that simple. That's just my personal feelings of it. And I guess because I am in my 50s, that it hits me harder in a different way, because I've had to be able to experience all those things that people had never seen or experienced or realized that I ever had. Because when they see you sometimes, as we all look at people from our outer shell experience, they think nothing's ever happened to you. Oh, nothing's ever happened. Everything, your life is perfect and blah, blah, blah. Not realizing, no, life ain't perfect. Because if it was, we wouldn't be in the circumstances that we're in every day. So it's just something that I pray every day that, people, like I said, open their eyes and realize that it's not hard. It's really not hard. People make it hard. And that's just because they're not willing to look within themselves to understand that when you see a person standing in front of you, just because they don't look a certain way or act a certain way, why are you going to continue to judge them and treat them in a way that they deserve less? And that's where the ignorance comes in. And that's where, like I said, your mindset needs to change. It starts with you. So I'm going to quit harping. We're going to kind of start tying this up. We're definitely way over our time limit, but, I think it's something that we all needed people, like I said, to hear directly from us. But, T, you have anything else you want to share about this?
I'm just going to do my last little moment thing that I like to do to kind of wrap up the whole situation, or wrap up our time, which we always go over. We always get to an hour.
I know.
Get to an hour. At first,
it's like, why did we say 30 minutes?
Now
yeah.
Exactly. But just based on our conversation about our personal experiences with being Black in America, I always, for a while there in the beginning of our shows, I would talk about protecting your magic. So I'll leave us with this. Try as you might to steal my magic, but it's mine. No matter how hard you try, you cannot have it, and you will not take it away.
Love it. Simple and elegant.
And go stream Black Parade by Beyonce.
Look, she's going to have to start paying us, okay? Because every month, we love us to be on the show. Yeah, we're going to have to just reach out to her and say, can we have you on this show? Because we just love you.
Right.
So, yeah.
She's just like Pepper. She's an unofficial co-host and doesn't realize it, although we can never say any of her songs because Parkwood would come in and cut our throats, I believe, because
we don't need that.
In the moment.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen.
No, we don't need that.
No. So,
but seriously, y'all, stream Black Parade, and I don't know about everybody else. I'm gonna make them my ringtone until I see fit to change it. So it might be 2025, and y'all gonna, anytime you call me, you want to hear that song. I'm not gonna sing it though, because I don't want her coming for me.
Yeah, don't say nothing. But yes, so if you're following Beyonce like we follow Beyonce, you definitely want to hear that song. It's amazing. But on everything else, Mr. T, this has been a wonderful show. For those who don't understand why we had it, if you need to talk to us personally, come find us. If you don't want to continue following us, that's on you. But this is a conversation that needed to be had, and we felt that we wanted to, like I said, share our experiences because we are still human beings, and we have feelings just like everybody else does, and our experiences makes people open their minds, and it enlightens them to understand what truly goes on behind the scenes, as I always like to say that people aren't always in the forefront and really know about. So but again, it's been a wonderful evening. I always hate to end our show, but for those who don't know, we are here once a month here on this amazing platform. We're actually on 11 platforms now. And matter of fact, we just got a new one I hadn't even had the opportunity to tell Mr. T about. It's called JioSavan, which is a new platform in India. They have over 104 million users and listeners over there. And so our station our show has been accepted on that particular platform. So we welcome all of you over in India and hope that you are enjoying our show and had the opportunity to go back and listen to some of our previous shows. And we also thank all the other listeners that have been out there listening to us for a while. We are on so many different platforms, and we're very excited that the show is continuing to grow with all of our other shows. But we are here once a month, and we usually do our shows on Sunday at 7 p.m. So we thank you for listening. We will absolutely again be back during the month of August as well. And T, do you have any more last words before we head on out of here?
I'm excited about the India piece because my new coworker that I'm training, we were talking about Punjabi music today. Because I think I'm saying it right. He's Desi. People might correct me if I'm wrong. Desi. Mm-hmm. If you're Punjabi, I think you understand that because we were talking about Punjabi music. So, yay! Shout out! I'm gonna have to learn how to say a few words.
Awesome. Yeah. So we can, yes, right. We're global now. So that makes it even more exciting that having a global station, recognize who we are and what we're doing. That's even more awesome. So again, we thank you all. We care for everybody. We're here, as we said, to just inspire people, open their minds, understand that everything that we talk about is all of our personal experiences. It's not like I said, we're not here to point the finger, but we're just here to talk and share. And we hope that you've enjoyed our wonderful show tonight. And again, like I said, we will see you all next month. Good night, everyone. Good night, Mr. T.
Bye, Lady K. Bye, listeners.
All right, we're out. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Moments with Lady K and Mr. T will return next month at 7 p.m. Follow us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.